Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. The long and winding campaign over the last almost 2 months for the general election is getting over tomorrow. During this period, much has happened, with leaders of all parties travelling the length and breadth of the country. This campaign has been centred around the BJP's Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi, with the last phases of the campaign taking an ugly turn. The personal attacks and later attacks against the Election Commission, something unprecedented, has also been the hallmark of these elections. Amid all this, what has been the big messages which have come out of this campaign for these crucial elections to the 16th Lok Sabha? We will discuss all this today with Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, senior journalist, Professor Zoya Hasan, former professor at JNU and a political analyst, Vipul Mudgal, project director, CSDS, Vandita Mishra, opinion editor at the Indian Express, and Madhukar Upadhyay, senior journalist. Welcome to all of you. Madhukar, I would like to come to you first because I think you are the most travelled journalist in this campaign among all of us sitting here.
Maybe others. Yeah.
But from those who are sitting here, I think you are the most travelled, I think. He's travelled 10,000 kilometers across the country. So that is, what was that 1, 2, 3 big messages which you could gather from these travels across the country during the campaign?
Well, basically, the 2-3 things come to mind immediately. If you go to the periphery, if you go to the countryside, you find a different picture which you don't see on your television screens, which you don't read in the newspapers.
Right.
So their issues are different, and they are actually on the margins, falling off the map kind of situation. Nobody is willing to talk about them, and nobody is bothered about them. So for them, these elections or the period after the elections are over and a new government is formed, I don't think much is going to change for them. Two, even there, you find some leaders occupying the mind space. Some party, particularly BJP and Narendra Modi is the prime ministerial candidate of BJP, has reached in the political discourse in the remotest parts of the country.
Okay.
2, 3 that you find is the attacks that is happening on the from their side on media and on institutions, particularly constitutional authorities. The Election Commission being the latest. That is something very disturbing that I find. And the fourth thing that I would think is
does these things get reflected at that peripheral level, which across the country? Do you see these attacks being any issue at all for the people on the margins?
No, I think their issues are different, right. And they will be polling according to their issues and their leaders. They would not go by what Mr. Modi or Rahul Gandhi is saying. They have their own set of problems, and they look up to people who they think can solve these issues. So they're not bothered about who is going to rule Delhi. The small tea shops in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they would be discussing Rahul Gandhi and they would be discussing Narendra Modi, but they would be voting Amma or Karunanidhi.
Right.
So there's no confusion about it. They have reached the mind space. Particularly Narendra Modi has reached the mind space in these areas, but voting is a different issue.
Zoya, this is something which we have been discussing right through this campaign about how Narendra Modi has occupied the mind space of the country. You think this is a victory for the BJP as far as communications are concerned, in comparison with the way the Congress has been able to communicate to the people?
You see, your first question about what are the big messages in this election.
Right.
The big message of this election is that media is the message.
Yeah.
This election is all about propaganda,
right.
A propaganda that the BJP, RSS, and Narendra Modi have mounted, and the media has been the instrument through which they have communicated it. You have seen the recent study by the Center for Media Studies, which was published yesterday, which says that Narendra Modi has been given 8 or 9 times more attention and space by the electronic media than Arvind Kejriwal, who's been given 10% space, and Rahul Gandhi about 3%. Now, this underlines the point I'm making, that this election is all about, the media becoming the message. Secondly, I think this whole point about success and victory, as you just put it, how can you call this victory of the BJP? Because this whole focus on personality with no discussion and debate about substance, about issues or that matter to people. Now, this is not a presidential system. I think BJP for a long time has been wanting to turn this into a presidential system, and at least they have succeeded in making this campaign into a presidential prime ministerial campaign. Now, this is extremely unhealthy, and this is distorting the political system, and we can see the consequences of this kind of presidentialization of the election in the kind of campaign that has been conducted, which is a very crass and an extremely coarse campaign. And obviously, this whole thing has culminated in this unprecedented attack on the Election Commission. Now,
we will come to that. We will come to that.
This is the message of this election, that this presidentialization of the election was most unfortunate, and I think the media has been complicit
in creating this kind of
making
atmosphere.
this campaign into a presidential campaign because it suits them to focus on personalities.
Okay, Paranjoy, would you go along with Zoya on that? That the big message is the presidential form, converting this election into a presidential form of election, and being able to penetrate into the remotest corners of the country and creating this man's image in the mind space of the people.
I would go along with much of what Professor Zoya Hasan has said. I think what is truly unique and unprecedented in these elections is that possibly for the first time after 1971, we are seeing one individual, in this case Narendra Modi, being projected as not just bigger than the party, bigger than the Bharatiya Janata Party, and bigger than even the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and its cadre. So an attempt has been made, and we'll really know on the 16th of May how successful this strategy has been or not. But I think this is truly unique, that here is one man who's supposed to, be the all-powerful authoritarian personality who is going to replicate the Gujarat model across the country. Factories will be created, jobs provided to the unemployed youth. He will provide clean governance, effective governance. I think the first time we are seeing this kind of huge amount of money being spent, and obviously much of this money is coming from the corporate sector, where here is a political party which has been in the opposition for the last 10 years, splurging like never before on projecting the image of one man.
Okay.
Whether the perception battle, whether the marketing of the Modi image, the so-called Modi wave, will work or not, we'll really know on the 16th of May. But wait. As far as the Congress is concerned, they've tried to project this whole concept, the whole idea of India. So it's not just Rahul Gandhi. Behind him are a bunch of people who've come from different parts of the country. Their attire and their appearance tells you that they come from different religions, different parts of the country. This is an attempt being made. And I must say, it's unfortunate but true, that the Congress has not been able to sell its successes over the last 10 years, whether it be the right to work, the right to education, the right to food, the right to information, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And we can discuss why this has happened.
Okay.
But let me also tell you one more thing. For many of the smaller parties, for Jayalalitha, Ms. Mayawati, Ms. Mamta Banerjee, for the left, for Naveen Patnaik, for a whole lot of other people, for also the Aam Aadmi Party, for the YSR Congress. They are saying, we are the people who are rooted in the soil, we are the guys, we are your local leaders, vote for us. So, we'll really know what's going to happen on the 16th of May, but I don't think you can write off the smaller parties. Remember in the last
we will talk about it, Paranjoy, we'll come back to that. Vandita, again, we are all getting even we are all getting swayed by the campaign, obviously, because most of the time has now been spent on the Modi campaign and how it has been successful or not successful. We will know only on May 16th. But the other big message in this election, has this been one of the most divisive campaigns which has divided this country?
Yeah. I think it has been. I myself travelled through Western UP for a week in the beginning of this election, and to me it was very clear that this was a Hindu versus Muslim election on the ground, and in that the BJP set the tone. Other parties also followed it.
Right.
The BJP candidate, for instance, in Muzaffarnagar was openly saying that ये विकास का election नहीं है, ये बहु बेटी का election है, मान सम्मान स्वाभिमान का election. So and people accused of hate speech had been given tickets. So not just by the BJP, but by other parties also.
Right.
But I would say that the BJP's aggressive campaigning set the tone, and it did, to me, seem to work for the BJP, because in many of the seats in Western UP, for instance, where the BJP was last visible in the top three, in 98 or 99, now everywhere the election was being defined as the BJP versus somebody else, BJP versus the rest. I do think this has been one of the most polarized elections, and not just from what I saw in Western UP, but also the ground reports that are coming in. It is very clear that if the BJP and if Narendra Modi comes to power, this will probably be the first time that you will have a Prime Minister who is feared and rejected by India's largest minority, and that the prime ministerial candidate and his campaign have made no effort to address these fears.
Absolutely. Vipul, this is the factor, the fear factor which has been worked on. I don't think, do you think that in the last 25, 30 years, that even during the peak of the Ayodhya movement, post-Ayodhya, 1996, 98, 99, was there this kind of a fear factor against an individual at any point of time in this country? I would like to get Madhukar also on this.
Yeah, you see, the fear factor is not just accidental. It is very well planned. It is mobilizing fear, it is mobilizing violence and threat of violence for getting votes. So it's not, let's not dismiss it as something which is incidental, which happens just like that. It's a very thought out thing. What is going on very clearly, to my mind, one is a propaganda war, as Zoya said. Propaganda war, no holds barred propaganda war.
No holds barred, no money.
Absolutely. That's one.
Spared.
The second is that there is a very minute electoral management going on everywhere. It's no longer just a candidate and his cronies going to the voters and asking them for vote. It's like very, very fine, we call it a branch of science or a art or management. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's a combination of all three. So it's a minute electoral management. And then third, not to be ignored, is the dirty tricks department of all political parties, where violence is being used, threat of violence is being used, people are being attacked, and then the institutions are being attacked. So the dirty tricks department are working overtime. And then, I mean, until now, I've been saying to everybody that, look, Indian Election Commission is great, we've done great elections, free and fair, relatively free and fair election, the whole world can learn from us. But now, I actually realize that we have a long way to go. You are being, all democratic institutions are being attacked. Money power is on display, and it's like never before. You have the booth capturing going on openly. Mobilization through violence is going on. So I think we have to, pull up our socks and decide again that, look, we have to work harder on electoral reforms.
So has there been some sort of, because we were all, like Vipul was saying, we have prided ourselves on the fact that how the elections are conducted in this country. Has there been a regression in this election?
Not regression, but I think the laws that were made have become archaic. They are old and they have to change. Like the Representation of People's Act, which talked about 48 hours before the elections, you stop campaigning,
right.
No noise, nothing, and people, you can go door
and
to door.
And in multi-phase elections.
But now, multi-phased elections were not conceived properly.
And 24/7 television channels.
You are polling
and the social media.
Somebody is entering your bedroom and your drawing room, and, live pictures are coming to you. These things probably were not known. I mean, the media's presence of this scale was not seen earlier. So RPA has to be changed. I mean, the rules have to change. Election Commission has to take, corrective steps and do it, because if this keeps happening, you can no longer pride yourself
Can
on
you
the
just
Indian
add one
elections.
small thing to what Madhukar is saying? Look at the affidavits. There are thousands of affidavits being filed. People whose assets are worth about 1,000 crores are openly saying it's only 5 crores or 3 crores. Now, is it justiciable? Can I go to the court and say that, sir, this is completely wrong?
And it can be done only after the elections are over, and the five years the candidates will be, whoever has, if he has won, he will continue to be an MP. That's another point. Zoya, coming back to you, one of the, what would you say that one of the bigger messages of this election is the way in which the Congress has receded, Congress has given up its ground, and like Paranjoy was earlier pointing out, or you were also pointing out, that it has not been able to communicate its performance or what it would like to do at all?
Well, we'll know on the 16th whether Congress is as badly as is being projected and being said in the media. But there's no doubt that Congress has mounted a very ineffective, very weak campaign. They've really got into the election mode midway through this extremely long election.
Right.
Because for the first 3-4 phases, the Congress was not very active. It's only in the last 2 or 3 weeks that they have really taken the fight into the Modi camp or into the BJP camp. So to some extent, I think the Congress is responsible, because they have not really organized a very strong campaign. And as it is, Congress is organizationally very weak in UP and Bihar, which are the two battleground states. But even in other states where it is much stronger, for example, in some of the South Indian states, whether it is Karnataka or Kerala or and so on, there are many of these states Congress could have organized a much better campaign. And there is, of course, the issue of leadership, in the sense that Rahul Gandhi is extremely well-meaning, very earnest, but he has not really, and he is also highlighting, I think quite rightly, some very substantive issues. But somewhere he has not been able to connect, he has not been able to communicate. For example, he has been talking very critically about the Gujarat model, but that doesn't seem to have gone home as effectively as it should have gone. So I think there are huge communication issues as far as the Congress is concerned. And secondly, I think the Congress, especially because the Congress has been very critical of BJP as personality focus, I think it was incumbent on the Congress to have actually deployed a much larger number of leaders in the campaign than rely almost entirely on the Nehru Gandhi family, which is what they have done. It's basically Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, and Priyanka Gandhi.
And later Priyanka Gandhi.
I think the Congress has many more leaders who can communicate very well, and they should have been used much more effectively in this campaign. And it's been a loss of the Congress that they have not used their own leadership.
Vandita, would you agree with that? Would you say this election is all about, if on one hand we talk about the success of the propaganda machinery in favor of Modi, it is a complete failure of the propaganda machinery of the Congress party? Would you say that?
There is a clear failure of political communication. For instance, in our paper, we've done a series of reports. Our reporters have gone to places where the Congress's flagship programs have actually been a success. For instance, Narega or the NRHM, infant mortality, maternal mortality has halved in a district in Jharkhand. So we went there. We went to Tamil Nadu, where Narega seems to be working most efficiently. And what we found is that either the Congress has not been able to make it a talking point in this election, or the credit has been hijacked by the local party, the regional party. So there is a very, very clear failure of political communication. It is nowhere near as adept as the BJP is, as on the go. But I think I would also like to say that it's true. There are many failures of political communication as well as governance of Congress party, and I think of leadership. As Zoya said, you have a leader at the top, at the helm, who seems to be constantly gazing into the distance. So that would be a problem
and that distance is 2019, not 2014.
We don't know if even that. So it will create a problem for a very nasty, very immediate political campaign. But we must still remember that the Congress is fighting a 10-year incumbency. You know, it is saddled with 10 years. I think any political party in today's time would be on the back foot.
Yes,
I think it's also a question of credibility. Even if the Congress party and its leaders went about saying that they have done this thing and their achievements are listing that, the credibility was so low that people would not accept it.
Exactly.
So,
it has been a problem of credibility also. It is not just a failure of communication or anything. It's a problem of credibility.
I think they've not
I'll
been...
come to you, Zoya, 1 second.
They've not been able to ideologically take along all this. They are a social democratic party. I mean, it's not yet over. I hope that they are doing better than what the media projects. But the fact is that, ideologically, they've been on a defensive.
Absolutely.
And
there's
lack
no
of
clarity
ambition,
of ideology.
and the lack of ambition is also clear at large.
Yes. Yes, Zoya. Before I go to Paranjoy, quickly, Zoya.
Yeah, I would just like to supplement what some of the other panelists have said, that, there has been a lot of discussion about two power centers and so on. But in this campaign, what you can see is a disconnect between the party and the government. Now, the government is not really owning up its achievements. I mean, what has been the hallmark of this, of UPA 1 and 2, is the rights-based legislation. Now, this is unprecedented. And yet, somewhere one gets the sense that other than Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, the rest of the government does not want to take ownership of its own achievements.
Absolutely.
And I would have expected that even though the Prime Minister is not going to get is not in the fray, but you would expect the Prime Minister to campaign, to make some speeches, to highlight the achievements of his government, which he hasn't done.
I mean, either has he not highlighted, both he has not highlighted, not defended as much. Anyway, Paranjoy, we will. I think we have. I want to move on to another thing.
May I make a few brief observations before you move on?
Yes, very quickly.
The fault is not really so much with the message as with the messenger. Mr. Rahul Gandhi got his act together rather late in the day. His diffidence, which was supposed to be, his strong point, is actually proving to be, his liability is a huge liability for him. The other point is, the point that Professor Zoya Hasan made, there were large sections within the government who were far from enthusiastic about the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, who were far from enthusiastic. In fact, they were actively opposing a right to food program. So even within the Congress party and the government, there were these divisions which were very, very obvious.
And that that was reflected in the campaign.
And one point I want to make, about the Election Commission. I think in the past, the Election Commission has been far more assertive than before. I have distinctly an impression that it's not just this whole issue of multi-phase election. We had that in 2009 also. It's not just the fact that the media and 24/7, we have hundreds of channels competing with one another. I mean, those huge loopholes in the law that remain continue to remain. And what is that? One of the biggest loopholes in the law is that you place limits on what a candidate can spend, but there's no limit on how much a political party can spend.
I think that's a very important problem. That's very, very important point you made. But Vandita, let's move on. And what about the AAP effect on this? On this election, because we see. This is unprecedented now where we are seeing actually party workers of various political parties, not just the Aadmi party, which started going door to door. The whole campaign, the way the campaign is done has changed in this country.
I think regardless of how many seats AAP gets, I think that is not the test of the AAP. The AAP's test is that it has changed, it has brought in a new way of campaigning, it has tried to change the language of politics, or at least the way of doing politics. And I think even for the AAP, actually, it would be good if it did not get too many seats, because what the AAP has also shown in the process is that it is being it's overstretching itself.
Exactly.
It's overreaching beyond its strength. It needs to build it. It needs to be more patient. It needs to rethink its fundamental concerns. The solutions that it proposes have not always seemed to be the best. They seem to be shortcuts.
Or practical sometimes.
Or practical. So I think it would actually serve the AAP well if it actually did not win too many seats this time. But its effect is something that will hopefully grow.
Madhukar, Aam Aadmi effect. One more thing. This is the first time that we are seeing mega contests taking place in this country. We have not seen for a very long time that a major, like if Narendra Modi was contesting, we wouldn't have expected a big leader of any political party to have contested against him. But that seems to have, to some extent, AAP seems to have set a norm there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it should have happened long back.
Long back.
I mean, the country was waiting, but I mean, what kind of political etiquettes are you talking about?
Right.
That you would allow somebody to win. I mean, you'll allow somebody's daughter-in-law to win uncontested.
Yeah.
You don't feel a candidate. I mean, what kind of democracy are you, actually ushering into giving to people?
Right.
So, I mean, AAP has done that, and now even the BJP has followed with Narendra Modi going to Amethi, and maybe Rahul Gandhi is going to Varanasi. So, I mean, this should have happened long back. Good that it's happening now. But what kind of impact will it have on the the system that we have is yet to be seen. Because yesterday from Varanasi, the pictures, we had a TMC candidate, Trinamool Congress candidate, standing atop a bus, and the bus was being attacked. I didn't find that news in any of the newspapers in Delhi, and not even the photograph. One channel briefly for a minute probably had that image.
So,
and
what you're
it.
talking
So,
is the physical violence which has become...
Yes, that may escalate. That may escalate because you are now confronting directly. It's not...
Yes.
Earlier there was a facade.
No, that's a very interesting point you made. So this direct contests which are happening between big leaders is also leading to some kind of a, the whole atmosphere getting very violence prone.
No, I think that is bound to happen because of the kind of pitch with which BJP is fighting the election. But you see, coming back to the AAP factor, they've already made a difference. I mean, even if they are not close to winning too many seats, but they've already made a big difference in the way elections are fought in this country. You see the kind of money they are spending. Many candidates are fighting elections in just about 30-35 lakhs, where others are fighting in 40 crores, 50 crores. So, I mean, that difference has already been made. Then there are door-to-door campaigning. There are not too many hoardings. There is no centralized election advertising blitzkrieg. There are no corporate sectors giving veiled messages saying Mazboot Sarkar do, and, giving indirect messages to support one candidate.
Okay. Zoya, do you see that AAP has, AAP has one of the big messages of this election?
I think the AAP's new politics is certainly something which is very interesting, and it will be good for the political system in the long run. And there are 2 or 3 things they have done which I think are very interesting. One is, of course, they're fighting this election with modest funds,
right?
As against the BJP, which is put in 10,000 crores just for advertising. Now that's something the door-to-door campaigning is very interesting. I was watching a program last night on AAP's campaign in Banaras, which seemed very attractive and very local, and kind of people sitting together, and there was a certain campaign seemed to be embedded in the local culture of Banaras. Now that's something which is very interesting, but whether AAP will have a long-term impact remains to be seen, because let's face it, the media has given so much attention to AAP, and if the AAP fails to get more than 5 seats in this election, I doubt if the media
will have any more interest in that.
Will continue in the future.
Okay, Paranjoy, very quickly, last words to you, very quickly.
Irrespective of the number of MPs from the Aam Aadmi party who managed to win, I think they've left a mark in Indian politics which is going to remain with us for some time to come. And I think the point is, as some others have also mentioned, the attempt to impart greater transparency to the manner in which election campaigns, political parties are funded. In that sense, they're trying to reclaim an old tradition that used to exist in Indian politics.
Okay.
Sections of the Congress, the RSS, the Communists, they used to raise money through small donations, transparently.
Okay, Paranjoy, we are completely run out of time. Sorry. I think on that note, we need to end. There have been certain big messages, good messages, and bad messages, sometimes very, very sad messages also. Hopefully, we will find, when the results come out, hopefully the atmosphere in this country will be better, and we'll see what will happen. But thanks to all my guests. Zoya, Hasan, Paranjoy, Guha, Thakurta, Madhukar, Upadhyay, Vandita, Mishra and Vipul, Mudgal. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.